January 31st, craziest thing I've ever seen. We've got crocuses poking up, daffodils, tulips, even got a hyacinth that's in bloom. So I don't know what's going on with nature, but normally we'd call it a January thaw, but I don't know what this is.
Hi everyone, February 1st, 2025, not a bad day. I think it's about +2, +3 right now in Celsius. Had a bit of rain/snow showers this morning, but I did want to take an opportunity to kind of talk a little bit about nature. I'll turn the camera away from me. Nobody wants to see my ugly face for this whole time. Try to show you some nature. But I did want to just take an opportunity. I've been meaning to do this to talk a little bit about nature, wildlife, maybe a few comparisons between Lithuania and America, or more specifically Wisconsin, which is where I'm from. I will apologize in advance if there's some bad audio. It is a little windy today. I don't have a very good microphone on this GoPro, so it'll pick up some noise if it gets a little windy. But there's my car right there, by the way. This is a pretty bad road, but it's passable by car. I suppose in America we would call it like a level B or a level C road. They don't really maintain it, but I can get out here with a car. Also, before I get started, this is more of a statement or a question for Lithuanians. They have done quite a bit of logging out here in the forest, which is kind of unfortunate. Not that many years ago, 3-4 years ago, this was all forest. And they've been doing quite a bit of logging here. I get it, I'm not anti-logging. It's all part of what happens. Eventually it'll grow back. But one thing is, here I've noticed whenever they do some logging, they erect this fence, and it's a pretty high fence. And the first few times I saw it, I thought, oh, they're gonna make like a game park or a game preserve and maybe keep some animals in there. But the more I see it, I think I've figured out what's going on. I think it's a fact that they're trying to keep animals out so that the trees will regrow. I think they've done some replanting. Obviously, if deer and other things get in there, they'll eat those seedlings or those small trees. So very interesting. I don't know if it's required by law or what, but whenever you see this logging like this in Lithuania, you'll see this type of fence. And I don't know if it's permanent or just for a few years, but I guess enough about that. So some just general information. Wisconsin, where I'm from again, is actually almost identically twice as big as Lithuania in landmass. Wisconsin is almost identically twice as many people as Lithuania. Wisconsin, I think, is showing its 6 million population. Lithuania's 3 million. So you know, if you remove the big cities in Lithuania, such as Vilnius and Kaunas, and if you remove the big cities in Wisconsin, like Milwaukee and Madison, it's pretty sparsely populated given the land size. So there is a lot of natural areas. I think a lot of Lithuanians who have never been to America don't realize just how much nature there is. But just some interesting facts on land mass and population. But back to the whole nature thing, you know, as you can see here, trees are predominantly pine or conifers. You know, they've got a lot of jack pine, they've got spruce, a lot of cedar. Birch is king here. There's plenty of oaks, but when it comes to hardwoods, there's another one of those fences around the logging. But it's not exactly the same. It's similar when you compare Wisconsin to Lithuania, but Lithuania definitely doesn't have as many like maples. Again, it's more the pines and the birch. As you can see here, there's an awful lot of pines. But I live in the westernmost part of Lithuania. It's known as the Klaipėda region. which honestly, it's nice, you can see, but it's not the most beautiful or the most natural part of Lithuania. I'd say that's probably going to be, the central part of Lithuania. There's some pretty wild areas in the central part. But again, from a beauty standpoint and just wildness standpoint, I'm not in the best spot in Lithuania. There's other things when it comes to nature. Of course, most of you should know that Lithuania was unfortunately part of the Soviet Union for many years, from about mid-40s until 91 when independence came around. But during those times, I think the environment was kind of beat up here. Obviously, the Soviet government didn't really care too much about taking care of the environment. So there was a lot of pollution, a lot of clear cutting, a lot of, whatever they needed to do. Nature came second. And honestly, that's not picking on Lithuania or Soviet Union for that matter, because, that happened in the USA as well. There was a lot of pollution. Those of you old enough to remember, back in the 70s, Lake Erie in the US was so polluted it would catch fire sometimes. There was no fish, and they've managed to turn that around. They've cleaned all that up, and there's a lot of other places in America where, nature and environment just kind of came second place for a lot of years. But anyhow, it is improving. I'd say people are learning from mistakes made in the past, and to continue with garbage and pollution topic, it happens everywhere. There's idiots everywhere that, in America or in Wisconsin that, just stop at some bridge and throw used tires off into the river. I don't know what they're thinking, or just general garbage or littering. It happens, and I think it's worse here in Lithuania, unfortunately. You'll just see random garbage out in nature, and I don't understand it. You can just sneak into town and throw it into somebody's dumpster. I mean, it's the same amount of effort to come out here to the nature and throw your garbage. And it's not so much garbage as such. You see the strangest things out here. I mean, car parts. Somebody decides to part out a car that's been wrecked, and you'll just see a pile of the old dash and seats and upholstery. It's very sad, and I won't go on about that, but that's obviously the exception, not the rule. Most people care about nature and wouldn't litter like that, but it is pretty bad here in some cases. When it comes to things, it depends on what you consider nature. I mean, there's things in America, for example, like Yellowstone Park or Niagara Falls, world-known natural places, but they're so developed for tourism, you don't really get the sense of true nature, in my opinion. I mean, they're beautiful, but you got to get to places that aren't tourist traps. Wisconsin, I'll give a better example. I mean, there's a place in Wisconsin called Minocqua. And that place, it just turns into a madhouse during the summertime, especially. A little bit during the winter for snowmobile season, but it is beautiful nature, but you don't get the sense of getting away from it all. There's so many tourists and people. But there's plenty of other places like where I grew up, but it's not developed. There aren't any hotels or motels. And you really do get away from it all. There's places where I grew up, you get north of there's this main highway called Highway 8. You get north of that, and you can walk for the whole day and never see another person and barely cross a dirt road such as this. And I don't think they've got that so much here in Lithuania. But again, as I said earlier, there's plenty of places in central Lithuania that are still pretty wild. I would also say that, as far as people appreciating nature, again, it's people are people. It doesn't matter if it's America or Lithuania. There's plenty of people that get out, go for hikes, care about nature, recycle, don't litter. And it's the same here in Lithuania. There's just that small population of idiots that just don't seem to care. But I'll get off of that. But the main thing I wanted to talk about is, wildlife. And there's some similarities and obviously differences between here and like where I grew up in Wisconsin. I'd say the most predominant wildlife you'll see here in Lithuania is, I think in English they call it a roe deer. In Lithuania it's called stirna. I've talked about stirnas in other videos. It's a very small deer, way smaller than the white-tailed deer in the US, but there's scads of them. I mean, they're everywhere. Probably one of the other main things that you see a lot of is fox. Red fox. They don't have silver fox here. They don't have gray fox like we do in Wisconsin, but there are a lot of red fox here. I'd say per square kilometer, probably, well, definitely more than Wisconsin, and probably more than most other places in the world. But those are the main things you'll see here, but you see plenty of other things. They actually do have European bison. Now, they don't have them here where I live, but again, in central Lithuania, it's a smaller version of the American bison, but bison nonetheless. Can't remember what they call them. I think in Lithuanian it's stumbras, but they've got them. Again, not where I live. Moose, or briedis in Lithuanian. I did mention those in a previous video or two. We do have moose here. You don't see them very often, but I see the tracks quite often. There's a lot more of them, again, when you get towards the central and northern part of Lithuania. What we call elk in America, or elne in Lithuanian, plenty of them here too. I see them every so often. We definitely have them here. Again, there's more of them once you get towards the central part of Lithuania, but smaller than the American or North American elk, as we call it. To confuse things further, Lithuanians, when they translate to English, actually call a moose, they call it an elk. So it's really confusing for me, but I'll get off of that. But there's another type of deer that they've got here, not by me here in western Lithuania, but I think it's more in central. I don't know what it's called in English or Lithuanian. I'll have to try to find that out and maybe post it later, but it's got a strange rack or antlers on it. It's almost like a moose's horns, but on a deer, and they've got spots on them. Really a beautiful looking little animal. I wish we did have them here, but I've never heard of any being seen around here. Certainly never seen any. Wolves, of course, kind of a controversial animal. A lot of people in America, either you hate wolves and you want them all to be killed, or you kind of love them and you want them to come back. But I won't get into which side of that I'm on, but they do have wolves here. Again, slightly smaller than wolves in North America, or what we have in Wisconsin. I think it's called a timber wolf, but plenty of wolves here. I don't think there's any by me in this region, but again, you get to central Lithuania and there's plenty. It's just as controversial here as it is in the United States. A lot of people really aren't big fans of the wolves, claim that they kill wildlife, etc. We all know the story on the wolves. But wild pigs, lots of wild pigs here. Even by me, in fact, I can promise you where I'm standing right now that there are wild pigs within probably a couple hundred meters. I don't see them very often. I have seen them a few times, but you definitely see where they've been when you're walking through the forest, or there's a place by the river by me on the other side of the river, like underneath an oak tree. If they've been there trying to find all the acorns, it almost looks like a tractor had been in there and plowed the soil. They just really make a mess. And again, that's another species that is not very popular in the United States. I think it's, the population is expanding. I don't think there's any in Wisconsin yet, but they're moving north. But certainly got wild pigs here. They're natural, been here forever. Martins. A lot of you might not even know what a martin is, but we've got martins in Wisconsin. We call it a pine martin. They've got the equivalent of that here. It's just called a European martin, and with most other things, it's slightly smaller than the North American version, but beautiful little animal. We actually have them right by our house. We've watched them a few times. We see their tracks and their shit a lot, but don't see them very often. But every once in a while we'll catch a glimpse of them. Beautiful little things. I've never seen them, but I guess we do have raccoons here. Obviously they're not native. They somehow are an invasive species, or I'm not really sure. I've never seen them, but they do have raccoons here. Hedgehogs, or in Lithuanian I think it's called ežys. They have hedgehogs here in Lithuania. I've never seen one. It seems like everybody else I know here has seen them. I've never seen one, but nice little animal. From a bird standpoint, there's lots of different birds here that we don't have in America. The stork, as you would see on the old Vlasic pickle advertisements, but a lot of storks here. They're here only for the summertime, obviously, but they're really revered here in Lithuania. In fact, if a stork builds a nest on or near your house, even though it makes a complete mess, it's considered good luck. People definitely protect them and definitely like them. And it's a strange thing with the storks. When they leave, they all leave on the same day. It's always like August 25th or something. I don't know why they leave so early, but literally you'll wake up in the morning and all the storks will be here. You'll wake up the next morning and they're gone. Very strange. Grouse or partridge, plenty of those here. Not exactly the same species as we have in North America, but definitely have them here in big numbers. I see them quite often. Crows, just like in America, but kind of, obviously there's a difference between a crow and a raven. I won't get into all that, but they've kind of got two different types. Basically one that is in the countryside and one that's a kind of a city crow. I think the city one has a gray mark on its wings. It's obviously a slightly different species, but very clever animals. Always stealing things. Oh, one other thing. I had mentioned in a previous video that I had missed hummingbirds. You know, I really loved watching hummingbirds in America, and I still miss them. We don't have them here, nor do they have them in Europe. But one thing they do have that we don't have in the US is the cuckoo bird, just like the cuckoo clock. Plenty of those, starting about late April, maybe early May. You'll start hearing them, cuckoo, and it sounds just like the cuckoo clock. And it's great whenever you hear it. You know, summer's finally here. Although it doesn't last, the greatness doesn't last a long time, because they'll drive you crazy. They will go on and on and on and on. Sorry if the wind's covering up the audio a bit. It is getting windy, but Lithuanians are quite superstitious people. Especially when it comes to these cuckoos, or gegutis they call them. They've got all kinds of superstitions where if you don't have some coins in your pocket when you hear your first gegutis for the year, you're not going to make any money. People say you got to count the number of cuckoos a cuckoo bird makes, and it'll tell you how many years you're going to live. It goes on and on and on, but I think that's it about the wildlife. I may expand on it on the next segment, but it is getting windy here, so I'll wrap this one up.